bar to bar, just trying to have a good time, and I lost control. You know, sometimes I drink because I have depression that I struggle with every day, and I just drink to get out of my head for a few hours. You know, I really don't like the person I become when I drink. I've ruined relationships in the past. I start fights. You know, I just generally become a person that people don't like being around. On that particular night, I made a mistake and got in my truck, completely blacked out, and decided to try to drive home. I ended up going the wrong way down the highway, directly into oncoming traffic, and I struck a car. I killed a man. Immediately following that, I consulted some high-powered attorneys who told me stories about similar cases where the drivers got off. They were convinced that they could get my blood test thrown out, and all I would have to do for that was lie. Well, I won't go down that path.
My name is Matthew Cordell, and on June 22nd, 2013, I hit and killed Vincent Canzani. This video will act as my confession. When I get charged, I will plead guilty and take full responsibility for everything I've done to Vincent and his family. If I took a different route, maybe I would get a reduced sentence, and maybe I would get off. But I won't dishonor Vincent's memory by lying about what happened. By releasing this video, I know exactly what it means. I'm handing the prosecution everything they need to put me away for a very long time. But I'm willing to take that sentence for just one reason, and that reason is so I can pass this message on to you. I beg you, and I say the word beg specifically, I'm begging you, please don't drink and drive. Don't make the same excuses that I did. Don't say it's only a few miles, or you've only had a few beers, or you do it all the time, it'll never happen to you, because it happened to me. And all of those are just excuses to make yourself feel better about a decision that you know is wrong and could cost lives. I can't bring Mr. Canzani back, and I can't erase what I've done. But you can still be saved. Your victims can still be saved. So please.
So Matthew posted that video through a website that's called Because I Said I Would. That's the website, Because I Said I Would. And joining me now is the founder of that website, Alex Sheen. Alex, thank you so much for taking the time to come on live with me to talk about this. First of all, how did this come to your desk? How did you ever find out about Matt, what he did, and what he wanted to do on your website?
Sure, we have people who follow us on Facebook, like a lot of Facebook pages, and we receive messages about people's promises, the promises that they make, and Matt heard about Because I Said I Would. I don't know Matt at all outside of this, and he just sent a message to me confessing that guilt. So that's how it started. And
as I understand it, you helped him. That video was quite professionally done. Usually you see people sitting in their rooms at their computer, cams and making their testimonials, but this one was very professionally done. Why did you help him to create the video?
The whole goal of this video is to convince people to not drink and drive, to come to that realization that a lot of people make the same excuses that Matt makes in his life about drinking and driving, and to come to that point in your life to make the promise to never ever drink and drive, and to make that message compelling, we made this video.
So, Alex, did you ever think, I think I need to call the police. I think I need to at least alert the authorities what I'm up to, since I'm working with someone who hasn't even been charged, but was suspected in this crime?
Yeah, I looked and saw news reports that he was the primary suspect, and they knew that. They were just gathering the evidence. And even still today, with this video being out, they have not pressed charges yet. I am not going to pretend to understand the legal system, but what I do know is that they're putting together that case to make sure that when they press charges, that they have the evidence they need to sentence him to a reasonable and fair punishment. So I think that's part of the legal system, and they know that he's the suspect.
Well, Alex, we would love to also speak with your now colleague, Matt. Please pass the message on to him that we'd welcome him on the program any hour, any day, if he wants to talk a little bit more about what he's done and what he's expecting. Certainly if he wants this message to get out, not to drink and drive. This is a great venue. We reach a lot of homes at CNN. Thanks, Alex.
Thank you.
It's good to talk to you. We do appreciate it. What do you suppose the motivation could be? Is it simply that magnanimous effort to say, look, I did this crime and I'm going to do the time, I'm going to take responsibility for it? Or is it possible there may have been something more calculated to this? Maybe a decision to work within the system to mitigate a sentence. Believe it or not, this plays into sentencing, whether you are sorry, whether you don't cost the state money to prosecute you, and whether you actually offer your contrition. Joining me now is CNN's brand new legal analyst and defense attorney, Mark O'Mara. Good to see you again. This time I can actually talk to you in person, not just follow you in the Zimmerman trial. It's nice to have you on board. So your first assignment is not to talk about George Zimmerman today. It's to talk about this. I started posing that question. Did Matt possibly do this for another reason? Because there is another possibility.
When I first saw it, my cynical prosecutor side came out, and I looked at it and I said, well, he's doing that to try and gain some favor, because we know that things like this are relevant. Contrition, like you say, is relevant. Remorse is relevant. But I got to say, by the time I looked through the video and by the time I got to the end of it, I think he's being sincere. I think it was a good, honest move with a lot of integrity, and I think I'm going to give him a thumbs up on the whole why he did it. I hope that his future actions follow what he started here today. So,
and the other element of the entire system of jurisprudence is, if you take account, and you take responsibility for what you did, and you sign a deal so that you don't put people through the expensive cost in money and emotion of a trial, that also counts, doesn't it?
And it should, because after all, he did something that, even though drinking and then driving is intentional, the act of what he did wasn't really intentional. The idea that he came forward before he was charged and said, I killed somebody, I'm responsible, I'm taking responsibility. After all, that's really what we want our children to do, our residents to do. We really want to say, when you do something wrong, acknowledge it. And we've got to give him credit for doing just that.
And ultimately, Alex had mentioned in some of the reporting to CNN that he doesn't want people calling him courageous. In fact, he's sort of buckling at the notion that people are looking at this video and thinking it's courageous. It may seem courageous, but he killed a man. He killed a man, and there's a family out there that for quite some time now has had a hit and run on their hands.
In many cases, Zimmerman case is one of them, but many other cases, the victim's family, when they complain because they've never gotten that apology. They never got that sort of sense of fulfillment from what the other side would say. We have to give them credit for having said that to the family.
You have stood in front of a lot of judges, and you have pleaded cases, and you have asked for mitigation and sentencing before. If you were in this courtroom, what do you really think might end up coming out? Because he's going to get charged, and he's going to have to go through some process. He said he'd plead guilty. What do you think a judge would do with this?
Well, I tell you, I'd like to represent him in front of a judge and say to a judge, look, we know it's a horrible crime. We know a death has been caused. But if we're going to look at somebody and say they've done what we want them to do, they've started the process of rehabilitation to a certain extent, they've acknowledged their remorse and their guilt, and they've made life easier for the family and for the system, then at least he has now taken the first step towards somebody who we should still punish, but punish as little as reasonable, make him pay for his actions, and then move forward. This might be the kind of guy who does videos like this one that goes out to schools and goes out to other community people to say, don't do what I did.
You think that might be the actual sentence?
Or
will there be jail time?
No, I think there's jail time.
He's going to jail.
He kills somebody, he's going to jail.
Good to see you.
Great to be here.
And may I just say, you're a fine lawyer, both you and the prosecution in the Zimmerman trial. Fine examples of great skills and stamina, as it turns out.
Thanks very much. I appreciate it.
It's good to have you on board. Mark
O'Mara
joining us for our first time. Thank you.